I woke up in someone else's life, but the timing was absolutely perfect. It was the exact moment the original owner of this body, a man married into his wife's wealthy family, was about to get her signature on a set of divorce papers. He planned to sneak it past her, trick her into signing, and then wait through a mandatory 1-month period before he could finally leave. The guy had been a complete doormat. His wife's high school crush turned obsession had framed him for countless things, and the original guy just took it. He had a mouth but never spoke up, hands but never fought back, feet but never walked away. All he did was walk around with a grim face, forcing a bitter smile while taking every hit. He was a master of self-delusion, a total S. But I'm not him. The one thing I didn't see coming was that my new wife could somehow hear my thoughts. What kind of contract needs my signature right now? My wife, Isabella Vance, was holding her phone in one hand, impatiently taking the pen with the other, busy texting Caleb Reed, the one that got away. I had just arrived in this life as the original me was about to trick his wife into signing divorce papers. All because her precious Caleb was moving back to the States. The original guy was gallantly planning to step aside and make room for him. I remembered from the novel's plot that he told Isabella it was a purchase agreement for a new property. Being ridiculously wealthy, she hadn't bothered to look, just flipped to the last page to sign. But I wasn't going to do that. I've always believed in being direct. If you're in the right, you state your case. If someone wrongs you, you get even. You settle your scores. Okay, you caught me. I'm not that noble. The main issue was that this was a divorce agreement where I walked away with absolutely nothing. And why should I? For 3 years, I had been the perfect house husband, taking care of Isabella without complaint. We never even held hands. So why should I leave with empty pockets? The original Ethan was a romantic fool playing the part of the pure-hearted lover. But in reality, he was just a lapdog willing to give up everything. Not me. My time is valuable too. Was it that I didn't want to touch Isabella? No. She was the one obsessed with her pristine image, claiming some kind of phobia about being touched by men. And for a woman like that, the original Ethan was still planning to leave without taking a single dime from the Vance family. So why stick around for another 30 days? He was just hoping for a last-minute miracle, dreaming she might actually turn around and see him before it was all over. What a joke. Isabella's attention was glued to her phone as she flipped the document to the final page. She raised the pen, ready to sign her name. I lunged forward and snatched the papers from her. Ririp. Without a word, I tore the agreement that would have left me penniless into shreds. Isabella, stunned by my sudden change in behavior, asked irritably, "Ethan Hayes, what are you doing?" I didn't hide it. Those were divorce papers. I made a few mistakes in the terms. I'll bring you a new copy later. Good thing I ripped those up. A woman like Isabella Vance doesn't deserve to get off that easy. I'm not leaving a clear path for her high school crush without $100 million buyout. What? Isabella froze, her eyes wide with shock. The words divorce papers had already surprised her. She instinctively looked at me, but my lips hadn't moved. And yet, she had clearly heard me say 2 more sentences. What was that? She thought she was hearing things. "Ethan, you want to divorce me?" "Why?" she asked, testing the waters. Since the cat was out of the bag, I didn't bother pretending. "Isn't your old flame coming home?" I said, feigning generosity. "I'm giving you 2 a chance to be together without the scandal of the great Isabella Vance cheating on her husband plastered all over the tabloids. Wasted 3 years of my life on her. I want to slap her so hard. 100 million feels cheap. Maybe I should ask for $1 billion. Isabella finally understood. The voice she was hearing was coming from inside my head. $1 billion, huh? He wouldn't dare. "I have never wanted a divorce," she declared. "Caleb and I are just friends. You shouldn't let your imagination run wild. Don't bring up divorce again." Clap. I was done talking. I just slapped her right across the face. "I just hit you. Are we getting a divorce now or not? If we don't get divorced soon, the Vance family is going to go bankrupt and I won't get a cent. No, I have to divorce Isabella today. Besides, the money isn't all for me. I'll need it to pay for the Vance family's funerals later." The slap left Isabella speechless. I had been her lapdog for 3 years, and now I had dared to strike her. Rage boiled up inside her. She wanted to have my legs broken. But the next thought she heard from me turned her anger into pure terror. What? The Vance family is going bankrupt? I'm going to pay for their funerals. Absolutely not. Isabella was the CEO of the Vance Corporation. The family wasn't just her home. It was her life's work, her entire identity. She could die, but the Vance family could not go bankrupt for the family. She would give up love, sacrifice her marriage. In the end, Isabella didn't agree to the divorce. I had no idea what she was thinking, and I couldn't be bothered to guess. Wouldn't it be better to divorce me so she could be with Caleb without any baggage? She tore up the new agreement I presented, ran in her bedroom, and locked the door, leaving me with only one line. You can beat me to death, but I am not getting a divorce. I was speechless. You locked the door. How am I supposed to beat you to death now? This house? Wait, this was never my home. My home was in a small town a few hours away. I needed to leave and fast. If I didn't, Isabella's beloved Caleb would be moving in soon. I wasn't running away. I just couldn't stand the thought of seeing that two-faced snake. Even hitting him would feel like getting my hands dirty. Back in my room, I packed my things through the night. 2 large suitcases, the empire I had built over the last 3 years. That included all the gifts Isabella had bought me to keep up appearances for the family. The original Ethan was too proud to take anything, but I wasn't. Why turn your back on money? Unlike the original Ethan's plan to sneak away, after I loaded my car, I immediately made a post on Facebook. The picture was a close-up of the words divorce agreement. The caption read, Ethan Hayes and the still very much a virgin Isabella Vance have mutually agreed to divorce. Whether the Vance family's reputation or the Vance Corporation stock took a nosedive was none of my business. I was just the useless living husband. After posting, I turned off my phone, hit the gas, and left Isabella's mansion behind, left Seaport City behind. I went back to my own house in the countryside. My parents were gone, and I had no siblings, which was one of the reasons the Vances chose me. It was a simple 2-story house that I'd been paying a woman from the village to look after. It was clean and ready to live in. Sleeping in my own bed, in my real home, I finally had a peaceful night's sleep until morning. I didn't have to wake up early to make Isabella breakfast. Didn't have to read her moods. Didn't have to help her put on her shoes or carry her purse. Sigh. It's a tragic story. How could the original me live such a pathetic life? Isabella woke up in the morning. Her phone had died during a late-night FaceTime call with her best friend. She found a charger, and the moment it turned on, her world came crashing down. 99 plus missed calls and texts, all from her parents, her sister, and a few close friends. Her parents and sister were on vacation in Europe. Had something happened? Remembering what I'd said about the family going bankrupt, she frantically called her father. The moment the call connected, her father's furious voice roared through the speaker. You foolish girl. Get a hold of Ethan right now and tell him to delete that post. Her mother's sobbing could be heard in the background. Delete it? Why? Let everyone see what kind of person Isabella Vance really is. I'm cutting her off. Isabella was baffled. She knew her mother adored Ethan, but surely not enough to disown her over this. Ethan must have told him some nonsense. She quickly hung up and opened my Facebook profile. For a moment, her mind went blank and the phone slipped from her grasp, clattering to the floor. The words still very much a virgin felt like 4 giant handprints slapping her across the face, making her cheeks burn red. Some things can be done but not said, especially not broadcast to the world by your own husband. What would people think? That her husband was impotent, or that she was, or maybe that she had no respect for him, or that she was using her power to bully her husband while she pined for another man, Ethan Hayes. For the first time in 3 years, Isabella stormed into my room. It was empty. I was gone, and so were my things. She checked the security footage and saw me walking out of the mansion, pulling my suitcases without a single backward glance. Isabella collapsed onto the floor, her mind in turmoil. Before, she would have said with 100% certainty that she felt nothing for her husband, but now all she felt was an aching emptiness. Isabella found me faster than I expected. I had just woken up and was about to head into town for breakfast when I saw her waiting at my front door. Yesterday she was a stunning, impeccably dressed beauty. Now her hair was a mess. She was still in her pajamas and it looked like she hadn't even washed her face. She looked broken. Look at this poor woman. Did Caleb dump her again? TSK. So Isabella's a sim too. Her and me. What a tragic pair. Isabella rolled her eyes, exasperated. Huh? Honey, can I come in? Now it was my turn to be stunned. Felt like I'd been struck by lightning. Honey, she hadn't called me that once in 3 years. She's suddenly calling me honey, and all I want to do is slap her again. This has to be a trap. She's up in no good. Better watch my back. I'll let her in anyway. The neighbors were starting to stare. Let's hear it. We have nothing to talk about besides the divorce papers. If you don't sign, I might actually have to get rough with you. Or maybe I should just cheat on you. Would that work? Are you worried about the money? Fine, you could decide how much to give me. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Crap. How could I let her decide? What if she gives me nothing? I can't actually beat her up or cheat on her. I can't just go to some club and hire 10 models like other newly divorced guys. Damn my principles. I can't even be a proper scumbag. Isabella lowered her head in silence for a moment. When she looked up, her expression was sincere. Honey, I never wanted a divorce. I scoffed. Of course you don't. You want to keep your marriage intact at home while you chase after your fantasy on the side. What a player. I won't cheat on you, Isabella said helplessly. I gave her a look of contempt. But you'll cheat emotionally. You're just a user. Isabella held up 3 fingers and swore. I won't cheat on you physically or emotionally. It dawned on me. So, the plan is to pacify me now, then wait a year or 2, maybe even just a few months, and then divorce me. What a schemer. Isabella was speechless, her heart sinking. A moment ago, that had been exactly her plan. But now, she realized her feelings might be changing. Caleb was like a distant dream, something to be admired from afar, but never truly reached. In contrast, Ethan, the man who had been by her side for 3 years, felt much more real. Not giving up, Isabella decided to play the sympathy card. Mom fainted when she saw your post. She still hasn't woken up. And Dad has a weak heart. Mr. and Mrs. Vance treated me like their own son, though they rarely stayed in Seaport City. Ever since Isabella took over the company, they have been traveling the world, but they called and texted the original Ethan often just to check in. Mrs. Vance in particular. One time she came back and threw a drunk Isabella onto the original Ethan's bed. Another time she used some kind of scented incense to try it. Relax, Isabella. But the original Ethan was a romantic purist and refused to resort to such tactics, which left Mrs. Vance both angry and heartbroken, ready to spike their drinks with an aphrodisiac because of Mr. and Mrs. Vance's involvement. Isabella and I put the divorce on hold for now. They were without a doubt the kindest people to me in this world. As an orphan, I cherished that small bit of family connection. I deleted the Facebook post, but refused Isabella's request to post an explanation. As I walked her to her car, my mind started to wander. If I'd known getting a divorce was this much trouble, I would have just tricked her into signing last night. Then I could have flown straight to Europe. I wonder if I'd still run into my own one that got away if I went a month early. Too bad I don't have my old friend Brooke's contact info anymore. I should get my passport renewed first, then fly over and find her in a few days. In the original novel, after the divorce, the protagonist went abroad and happened to run into his college senior, Brooke Chandler. In terms of family background, looks, and status, Brooke was Isabella's equal in every way. Most importantly, they were sworn rivals. For some reason, the moment Isabella heard me thinking about some college friend, some old flame, and planning to fly overseas to find her, her mind went haywire. Find her for what? To line up his next wife? To rekindle an old romance? Suddenly, her heart was filled with jealousy, anger, sadness, and despair. The thought of Ethan marrying another woman. Wait, wasn't Ethan's college friend Brooke Chandler? She was her college friend, too. They graduated from the same university. Of course, Ethan Hayes. So, you haven't even divorced me yet, and you're already planning to find your next partner, and you're going after my biggest rival, Brooke Chandler. Isabella was furious, desperate. Rage burned through her veins. She felt like the hot air blasting from her nostrils. It could incinerate the planet. Ethan Hayes. Hearing her grit out my name, syllable by syllable, I took a fearful step back. I had no idea why she was suddenly so angry. What's wrong with this woman now? Is she having second thoughts again? Fine. If she insists I leave with nothing, so be it. When she gets herself killed by her enemies later, I just won't bother to collect her body. Isabella's towering rage was instantly extinguished. She wasn't stupid. She had already guessed that I could somehow see the future. The thought of the Vance family going bankrupt and everyone dying was too much. She couldn't afford to worry about me and Brooke Chandler right now. There was only one thought in her mind right now. It looks like the only way to save my family is by listening to Ethan's thoughts. So, I absolutely cannot get a divorce. Her decision made. Isabella's business instincts took over. She started taking stock of her bargaining chips. Money. Ethan seemed to want it, but he was also willing to leave with nothing. That wasn't a reliable lever. Home and family. Ethan was an orphan who craved these things, but he was also just planning to leave the country. Marriage and love. Isabella covered her face in shame. For the past 3 years, she had been a terrible wife. It seemed the only chip she had left was the one thing Ethan seemed to care about, her still intact purity. Isabella, what are you thinking about? Are you leaving or not? Isabella snapped back to reality. I'm not leaving. We're not divorced yet. So, your home is my home. Can I stay in my own home? She was planning to stick to me 24/7 to make sure I didn't secretly leave the country, and I found myself unable to get rid of this clingy, stubborn woman. Over the next few days, Isabella was like a different person. During the day, she worked remotely from my house. At night, she tried to sneak into my room. She was constantly hovering around me, and it was baffling and frankly terrifying. What was she planning? She kept asking me indirect questions about my college friend Brooke Chandler, which I completely ignored, and on top of that, she started discussing company business with me, making me even more certain she was up to no good. When we first got married 3 years ago, Isabella had laid down 3 rules. No talk of love, no talk of the company, and no talk of children. Isabella, what are you trying to do? I finally snapped. She insisted on sitting next to me on the couch to watch a movie and even tried to clean my ears. I mean, come on, aren't you the one with the touching phobia? Isabella, you're not trying to sweet-talk me into donating a kidney or a heart to your precious Caleb, are you? My organs are the only valuable things I've left, and I have to get out of here tonight. For the past few days, Isabella had been trying her best to be a good wife. She cooked, she cleaned, she made conversation, and she was even ready to share a bed, but her efforts were completely wasted. It seemed time to bring out the big guns and call for Mom's help. You're my husband. I will always be good to you. I could swear on it. Isabella had figured it out over the last few days. Marriage and love could wait. The priority was to prevent the Vance family from going bankrupt. She might not die without marriage and love, but without the protection of her family, not only would she die, but her entire family would die horribly. Her mind clear, Isabella played her trump card. Honey, Mom, Dad, and Jessica are coming back from their trip today. Should we go to the main estate to see them? Mentioning her parents always made me soften. Good people can never say no to those who are genuinely kind to them. Fine, I'll see them one last time. Explain things clearly. I couldn't just run off without a word like the original Ethan. Slap. The moment we arrived, Isabella was greeted with a slap from both of her parents. She held her hands to her cheeks, looking utterly wronged. Mrs. Vance barked. Kneel. Isabella didn't dare refuse. Mom, I know I was wrong. I'm willing. I'm really willing to be a real husband and wife with him now. Mom, where's that thing you prepared for me? I can use it tonight. A mother knows her daughter. Seeing that Isabella wasn't lying, Mrs. Vance's anger subsided a little, but she still deserved to be punished for her past mistakes. Slap. Isabella started to cry. Mom, why did you hit me again? Just then, Jessica, My sister-in-law ran over and pulled her mother back. "Mom, you're being too harsh." Mrs. Vance awkwardly shook her hand. "It's your sister's fault for stepping into the house with her left foot first." I couldn't help but chuckle at Isabella's miserable expression. Looks like only my mother-in-law can handle this woman. What a shame. My in-laws and sister-in-law are all going to be dragged down to ruin by her. "Ethan, you," Mrs. Vance staggered back 2 steps in shock. If her husband hadn't caught her, she would have fallen. Jessica usually despised me, the live-in son-in-law. Now she was furious. "Ethan Hayes, how dare you?" Slap. Isabella cut her sister off with a slap of her own, quickly shot a meaningful look at her parents and sister, pulled them into a downstairs bedroom, and turned back to call the butler. "Ford, keep an eye on my husband. Get him a Coke." Ford, who had been practically invisible until now, materialized in the kitchen and brought me a bottle. I was surprised Isabella remembered that the original me loved Coke, but I wasn't grateful. I was still trying to figure out why her family was acting so strangely. I sat in the living room waiting for them to come out. Half an hour passed with no sign of them, only the faint sound of a few more slaps and the pained cries of Isabella and Jessica. After a while, Mr. and Mrs. Vance emerged, their faces heavy with worry, Isabella and her sister following behind, their heads bowed. Then Mrs. Vance rushed over and hugged me, sobbing. I was at a loss, wanting to comfort her but not knowing what to say. "Mom, don't cry. Isabella and I have decided not to get a divorce for now. We'll try to make it work. Just need to keep him calm for a few days. Then I'll find a chance to slip away to Europe. After the Vance family goes bankrupt and they're all killed, I'll sneak back to handle their funerals. No, I have to take my in-laws with me. If my mother-in-law stays, she'll be humiliated and die in disgrace. My father-in-law will have it easier. His heart will give out when the company collapses. But the worst fate is reserved for Jessica. Well, she was always yelling at me anyway. I'll just buy her the cheapest item I can find as I comforted Mrs. Vance. My mind raced with different plans, completely missing the strange looks the family was giving me. Mr. Vance looked gratified. Mrs. Vance looked heartbroken. Isabella was filled with remorse. Jessica's expression was unreadable. Her fists clenched tight. She still couldn't believe her sister's claim that Ethan's thoughts were prophecies. It wasn't scientific. She was going to find his weakness. "Ethan, Mom supports you divorcing Isabella." Mrs. Vance suddenly sat up straight, her face serious. "I'll call the bank and transfer $1 billion to you. I want you to take this money and leave the country and never come back." I shot to my feet in surprise. "Mom, what are you?" Mr. Vance came over and clapped me on the shoulder. "Your mother and I truly see you as a son. Since your time with Isabella is over, it's better to part on good terms. When we go abroad in the future, you'd better treat your parents well." My mind went blank. This wasn't how I imagined it would go. Weren't they supposed to persuade me not to get a divorce? Why were they agreeing and giving me $1 billion? I looked at Isabella. Her face was streaked with tears, her eyes filled with regret. "Honey, my parents are right. I'm the one who wronged you. I wasn't a good wife. I agree to the divorce." Jessica, ever the hothead, snapped, "Ethan Hayes, just sign the papers, take the money, and get out. I'll even throw in another $23.5 million. Take my parents with you when you leave. You're the real family. Go settle down. Abroad. What is wrong with this family?" Still, this idiot Jessica and I were on the same page for once. But I didn't want her money. "I'll order that cheap item for her tomorrow. She'll be needing it in less than 2 months. Ethan Hayes." Jessica stomped her foot. "That's all the money I've saved for 20 years. You ring. Her phone cut her off. She answered, spoke briefly, and hung up, then looked at her parents and Isabella. "I'm not getting involved in your mess anymore. Do whatever you want. I don't believe any of it. It's Samantha Fisher's birthday today. I have to go." She grabbed her bag and started to leave, shooting me one last glare. I was speechless, about to tell her to stay, but the girl loved to do the opposite of whatever I said. And just like that, Jessica was about to lose her innocence. She'd be at a wild party. Someone would take pictures, and later she'd be blackmailed into becoming one of the people who helped bring down the Vance Corporation. TSK. How am I supposed to stop her? In the end, Jessica didn't go. Just as she was about to walk out the door, her parents and Isabella called her back. Her mother even produced the Vance family's disciplinary tool, a black leather whip. What is going on with Jessica? Since she didn't go, does that mean the Vance family can avoid bankruptcy? Should I stay and help them? But the real problem is Isabella. That foolish woman is the main reason the company goes under. Isabella felt another wave of despair. She hadn't done anything yet. Why was the company going to fail because of her? But if she listened to her husband, maybe she could change her fate. The thought galvanized her. She was Isabella Vance. After all, she could go bankrupt. She could be blinded by love. She could be tricked. But all versions of Isabella Vance had one thing in common. They were beautiful, aloof, and incredibly capable. She pulled out her phone and called her executive assistant. Diane, get a team together. I need you at the Eclipse Lounge VIP Room 1 within 30 minutes. Take photos, record videos for evidence, and then bring Samantha Fisher to the Vance estate. Mr. and Mrs. Vance exchanged a knowing glance and a slight smile. A flicker of reluctance crossed Jessica's face, but it was quickly replaced by a look of cold determination her bangs couldn't hide. Isabella suddenly changed her mind. She wanted to try to save. Her marriage was on the line again, and she asked me, "Honey, can we wait a month before we get a divorce?" "Don't worry, I keep my word. The $1 billion would be in my account today." Before I could respond, her parents stepped forward, having agreed to the divorce for my sake, but now thinking it was worth another try to see if destiny could be changed. Mrs. Vance took my hand. "Son, Mom really doesn't want you to go. Why don't you stay at the estate for this month?" Jessica came over and tugged on my sleeve, speaking in an uncharacteristically gentle voice. "Brother-in-law, I'll be good to you from now on." I stayed silent. This family was getting stranger by the minute, especially Jessica. Didn't she realize how weird she sounded? Whatever. For $1 billion in cash, I could stay for a while. You should finish what you start. Just leaving without a word really isn't right. Isabella can die, but the Vance Corporation can't go bankrupt. Can be handed over to Jessica later. I could stay, Isabella, but you had to promise me one thing. As long as we were married, you would not do anything immoral. Isabella nodded quickly, but her heart was filled with sadness. So she was destined to die no matter what. Sigh. As soon as Caleb Reed came back tomorrow, love-struck Isabella would reappear. She would not only pick him up from the airport but also bring him flowers and give him a hug, then bring him home, making me cook for her lover and clean his room. That two-faced snake would even try to stay in the master bedroom in front of me. Just thinking about it made me sick. Maybe I should just break her legs now. "Deal, Mr. Vance suddenly shouted, pointing at Isabella. "Come to my office. We need to talk about work." Mrs. Vance quietly picked up a small whip and looked at me with a kind smile. "My dear son-in-law, your parents-in-law and Isabella have some company business to discuss. Why don't you have another Coke?" Isabella's face was ashen. "This isn't real," she pleaded. "I haven't agreed to pick." Her words trailed off as she slumped to the floor in defeat. Jessica clenched her fists, her expression fierce. "Sis, I need to talk to you too." As the family disappeared into the room again, the sound of Isabella's piercing screams soon followed. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. This was all too surreal. I turned to Ford. "Do you think they're acting a bit strange today?" Ford, who had worked for the Vance family his entire life, smiled warmly. "Sir, I actually agree. For disobedient children, a tag team approach is the most effective. A disobedient wife is not suited for a pure, hands-off love." I was speechless. Half an hour later, Isabella was carried out barely conscious. Her face was unharmed, but she was in a different set of clothes. At the same time, her assistant Diane arrived with a team of people and a disheveled young woman whose mouth was gagged with a black silk scarf. I recognized her. It was Jessica's friend, Samantha Fisher. Diane looked surprised to see Isabella's state. Her face seemed swollen, but she didn't dare ask. She leaned in and whispered something in her ear. Isabella, who had looked so weak just a moment ago, suddenly lunged forward like a starving tiger. Her icy gaze swept over Samantha. You really don't know anything? Nod or shake your head. Samantha shook her head frantically. Isabella waved her hand. Take her and all the evidence to the police. Soon, Samantha was led away. Before Diane left, Isabella pulled her aside for a private word. I couldn't hear what they said, but Diane glanced at me as she departed. Mr. Vance told Ford to prepare dinner. Ethan, you're all staying here tonight. How about you have a few drinks with your old man? Seeing the hopeful looks from the whole family, I agreed. This final moment of happiness was always so tempting. Sigh. Isabella, if only you weren't so determined to self-destruct. Things could have been so good. Isabella, who had just managed to sit down, slid off her chair and onto the floor. And honey, I really can't take another beating. Another tag team session from her parents, and she'd probably just kill herself. What 25-year-old gets beaten by her parents every day? I shot her a look. Look, what does your beating have to do with me? I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything. Isabella, no. Her whole family was acting weird today at the dinner table. Mr. Vance kept pouring me whiskey. Mrs. Vance personally served me food. Jessica even leaned over to wipe my mouth. Isabella couldn't even get close, forced to shrink in her chair like a timid quail. I glanced at her. Something's not right with Isabella. Why is her face so red? She looked so shy, like a bride on her wedding night. Is she thinking about Caleb again? Isabella shot to her feet, waving her hands frantically. No, I'm not really Mom on that thing. Don't forget to put it in. Mrs. Vance gave a subtle nod. Mr. Vance raised his glass again. My good son-in-law, have another. Jessica brought the glass to my lips. Brother-in-law, let me feed you. Ahem. Mrs. Vance smacked her daughter's hand away and glared at her husband. What are you doing getting him drunk? How is he supposed to perform if he's drunk? She then placed a piece of specially prepared sea cucumber on my plate. Ethan, eat up tonight. The estate gets cold at night. You need to stay warm. Perhaps I had too much of the warming food because when I got back to my room, I felt incredibly hot. In the middle of the night, a woman slipped into my bed. I knew from her scent and her touch that it was Isabella. I didn't push her away. I wasn't the original Ethan, the pure love warrior. Why refuse a meal that was served to you on a platter? Besides, I was still technically her husband. She was indeed a virgin. A delicate rose bloomed and 3 years of frustration melted away. The next evening, the Vance guests arrived, their old family friends, another prominent family in Seaport City, Caleb Reed and his father. I had no interest in seeing them, so I retreated to the game room Mrs. Vance had set up for me. I only came out when it was time for dinner. To my surprise, Isabella hadn't rushed downstairs to greet her long-lost love. Instead, I saw her clinging to the banister, shakily making her way down, dressed very conservatively with only her hands and face showing. I had no idea what she was up to. I heard Mr. Vance's worried voice nearby. How much of that stuff did you use yesterday? He hadn't stopped all night. Mrs. Vance shot him a look. I didn't use any. I grabbed the wrong bottle. Mr. Vance was shocked. Then Mrs. Vance smiled with relief. They finally figured it out. Then she sighed. It was just too late. The moment Caleb saw Isabella, he rushed over. Isabella, I called you. Why didn't you pick up? Are you sick? You look like you just woke up. Isabella gave a weak smile and subtly avoided his attempt to help her. I have been sick. Actually slept all day. Then, while greeting Caleb's father, she walked over and sat down next to me at the dinner table. Mr. Vance, as the head of the house, said, Old friend, let's have a drink tonight. It's been too long. Mr. Reed smiled and nodded, teasing. It's rare to see you stand up to your wife. Let's drink. I didn't drink and neither did Caleb. After a few courses, Caleb produced a gift box. Inside was a diamond necklace that shimmered with a brilliant blue light. Isabella, I didn't know what to get you for my return. Then I saw this piece at an auction, the final work of the master designer Pavani, Love of the Deep Sea. It symbolizes our friendship as deep as the ocean. They say women are like dragons drawn to shiny things. I estimated the necklace was worth at least 200 or 300 million. Caleb really must love Isabella. He stayed faithful to her all those years he was abroad. This isn't a gift. It's a proposal. Let's see if the woman is moved. Isabella had indeed felt a flicker of emotion, but not by much. After all, the memory of last night's fiery ordeal was far more vivid. She couldn't muster up any real romantic feelings for another man right now. I'm just too full to think. Still, as a woman, she couldn't deny a small flicker of pride hearing that Caleb's affection for her had never wavered. But she absolutely could not accept the gift, fearing she would be beaten to death if her parents thought she was about to make another catastrophic mistake. Mrs. Vance quickly jumped in. Caleb, that gift is far too generous. Isabella can't possibly accept it. Mr. Vance chimed in as well. The friendship between you young people shouldn't involve such extravagance. Otherwise, your father and I would have to start exchanging billion-dollar gifts. Huh? But to everyone's surprise, Mr. Reed nodded seriously and produced a folder. Speaking of which, Arthur, this is the poor project in Rio de Janeiro. Are you interested, Mr.? Vance's playful demeanor vanished. His first instinct was to glance at me. I knew instantly he was worried about my reaction, but I couldn't be the one to refuse. As the live-in husband with no shares in the Vance Corporation, I had no standing to comment on a business deal. The Reeds were really going all in. Too bad for them. Caleb didn't actually want to give that necklace to her. Not really. Isabella, who had just been feeling a shred of pride in Caleb's devotion, froze when she heard my thought. She immediately held her breath, focusing intently on what I would think next. This time, even Mr. and Mrs. Vance and the usually quiet Jessica stopped what they were doing. The person he truly wanted to give it to was my mother-in-law. TSK. I wondered if Isabella would die from a rage-induced aneurysm if she knew that her high school crush's high school crush was actually her own mother. Isabella's eyes instantly turned red, her fists clenching so hard her knuckles cracked. Mrs. Vance dropped her chopsticks on the table and covered her mouth, a wave of nausea washing over her. Mr. Vance nearly crushed the whiskey glass in his hand. All the while, I was just focused on the food in my bowl. Jessica was unusually attentive, never letting it get empty. Sigh. This whole family was blind. For every 10 glances Caleb gave Isabella, he secretly sneaked 20 at my mother-in-law. The guy lost his own mother when he was young. He had a serious mother complex, and Isabella never noticed in all these years. She deserved to be taken for a ride. Mrs. Vance couldn't take it anymore. Without a word, she got up and left the room. She finally understood why I had said her reputation would be ruined. Without the protection of the Vance Corporation, she would have never been able to escape Caleb's advances. Isabella and Jessica followed suit, leaving the table without a word. The atmosphere became excruciatingly awkward. Mr. Vance put down his glass, his head bowed to hide the hatred in his eyes. He was a seasoned businessman. He had always just thought of Caleb as a boy he'd watched grow up. It just goes to show you can never truly know what's in someone's heart. In the past, he dismissed Caleb's closeness to his wife as a boy missing his own mother. Now he saw it for what it was. Caleb didn't just want a mother figure. He wanted much more. Old friend, I'm not feeling well either. I'll let my son-in-law keep you company. Watching my father-in-law leave without a backward glance, the situation went beyond awkward into the realm of pure cringe. Caleb put the necklace away and turned to leave. Mr. Reed, after a moment of stunned silence, sighed and followed him out. Neither of them so much as glanced at me, right? The original me was a pathetic doormat, so I deserved to be ignored. An hour later, a truly battered and bruised Isabella was helped out of the room by her mother and Jessica. It looked like they hadn't held back this time. Even her clothes were torn from the whipping. I couldn't help but think, poor woman. Her parents beat her on the outside and I beat her on the inside, but she had it coming. Mr. Vance motioned for me to sit down and casually asked about the deal Mr. Reed had proposed. Ethan, what do you think of that partnership? I figured he was testing me, so I gave him my honest opinion. The project itself was excellent. The potential for profit and long-term growth was huge, but they were overlooking one thing. That country had just had a change in leadership. The new president had made public statements about his unconventional economic ideas. Dad, does that sound like a reliable partner to you? He was going to make a big show of cleaning house, and his third big move would be to halt this exact project. It wouldn't be canceled, but it would be delayed indefinitely, tying up a massive amount of the Vance Corporation's liquid capital. After that, the Reeds would team up with the Leong and Zhao families here in Seaport, plus some foreign investment firm. But even that wasn't the fatal blow. I took a sip of tea, pushing away thoughts of things I couldn't control. I couldn't stop the Vance family from going bankrupt. Anyway, the $1 billion was already in my account, transferred as a voluntary gift. Mr. Vance, ever the business tycoon, quickly identified a solution. They needed allies. Ethan, who do you think would be the best partner for us? I was taken aback. Was that really a question for me? Dad, you'd be better off asking Isabella what I know about business. Besides the Vances, the only other major family I knew of that was reliable was the White Corporation. But how do I even bring that up? Brooke Chandler is my old flame. Am I supposed to suggest my in-laws offer me up in a marriage alliance with the Whites? Dad! Isabella suddenly shouted, startling everyone. Mr. Vance looked guilty and immediately backpedaled. I wouldn't. Of course. How could I do something like that? I was curious. Now, Dad, what are you talking about, Mrs. Vance? She shot her husband a glare. Your father's lost his mind. Don't pay him any attention. Ethan, don't worry about what the Reeds were trying to stir up earlier. With Mom and Dad here, Isabella won't dare to act foolishly. I nodded, my mind wandering again. Isabella seemed to have changed, but I thought it was just because she was at the family estate and keeping her feelings in check. Tomorrow, Caleb would go to the office to see her. The idiot would appoint him as the head of the project development department, a crucial position. That wasn't just inviting the fox into the henhouse. It was handing him the keys. If you don't go bankrupt, who will? It's over. Isabella slumped onto the sofa again, staring blankly at the ceiling. She was truly afraid. If she stayed by her husband's side any longer, her parents were going to beat her to death. Slap. This time it wasn't her parents. It was Jessica who slapped her. Sis, you know what kind of person Caleb is now. How could you still? Isabella shot back in frustration. That's the future. Mr. and Mrs. Vance coughed loudly at the same time, cutting their daughters off. They quickly turned to me. Ethan, you didn't get any sleep last night. Why don't you go get some rest? I felt more and more like this family was living in a bizarre, surreal dream. Whatever. I was only there for a month. After I left, the family looked at each other. They now knew who their enemy was, but they didn't know the specifics of their plan. It was clear the Vance family couldn't fight off several powerful families alone. They needed a partner. The first thought was a marriage alliance. Divorcing me was out of the question now. Jessica stepped forward. Mom, Dad, I'll do it. I'll agree to an arranged marriage. Her parents and Isabella all refused. Arranged marriages in their world rarely ended happily. They wouldn't push their own family into that fire. Jessica stomped her foot in frustration. You're not actually thinking of using my brother-in-law to get an alliance with the White family, are you? Isabella clenched her fist, ready to punch her sister. That's your brother-in-law. Your actual brother-in-law. We consummated our marriage last night. Mrs. Vance ignored their bickering. Isabella, the truth is you don't know Ethan at all. There's no point in hiding it anymore. Ethan has another identity. In your generation's terms, he has another alt. It turned out that when Mr. and Mrs. Vance chose Ethan, it wasn't just for his family background and looks. It was for his skills. Haven't you been searching for that legendary hacker? The one who goes by the handle RY. What is he? The shock Isabella felt was no less than when she first heard my thoughts. Then why didn't he say anything? The realization hit her. No wonder her husband had said he would run into Brooke Chandler if he went abroad. There are no coincidences in this world. It's all calculated. The White Corporation, like the Vance Corporation, specialized in internet technology. RY wasn't just some hacker. The projects he'd been involved in were all major national-level initiatives. RY's name was a resource. Resources meant business, and business was the lifeblood of a company. Mr. Vance couldn't help but complain. There's one thing I strongly disagree with Ethan about. A man with skills should show them off to his woman. Women are naturally drawn to strength, but he insisted on this pure love nonsense. Otherwise, he would have won our daughter over long ago. Mrs. Vance and Jessica nodded in unison. Isabella found herself nodding along, too. For once, she completely agreed with her father. She was Isabella Vance, and no version of Isabella Vance in any universe would fall in love with a simp. Much later, Isabella came back to the bedroom. She slipped into my arms and asked softly, "Honey, are you our why?" I didn't deny it. Yes, I was wrong to hide it from you. I want to try the pure love route. It's funny, right? It's not funny. Isabella caressed my face. She sighed deeply. It's my fault. I wasted so much time and never truly connected with you. I quickly cut her off. Let's not get emotional. Can we just stick to physical communication from now on? I couldn't trust a word this woman said. The person she really loved was Caleb Reed. If I opened up to her emotionally, I'd just get manipulated. Isabella wanted to argue, but she knew the trust between us was broken. Rebuilding it would take time, maybe a year, maybe a lifetime. Honey, can you just hold me while we sleep? Last night was the happiest I've ever been. A flicker of pride went through me. See, the way to a woman's heart is through her body. That whole pure love thing was so stupid. Well, she did take my virginity. I'll buy her a nicer urn when the time comes. Isabella didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The next day, Isabella insisted on going to the office with me. This was new. For 3 years, our marriage had been a secret. She was the high and mighty CEO of the Vance Corporation, and I was just a low-level programmer in the tech department, not even a team lead. We were about to get divorced, and suddenly she wanted to show up together. I wasn't having it. Honey, our morning workout went a little long today. You wore me out and now you're just going to leave me behind. You're not that kind of man, are you? I wanted to say that I was, but seeing the tears welling up in her eyes, I softened. The moment we walked into the company, Isabella linked her arm through mine, leaning on me like a delicate flower. We walked like that all the way from the front desk to the CEO's office. Within 5 minutes, the news that Isabella and I had been married for 3 years had spread through the entire company. 20 minutes later, Caleb Reed, having gotten the news, stormed into the office. "Isabella," he demanded, "you told me you would divorce him as soon as I got back. What is this public announcement? What about the 3 years I waited for you? Jesus Christ, I'm standing right here. Is he just pretending I don't exist?" I laughed mockingly. What did it count for? Counted as a frog trying to eat swan meat. Haven't you heard the saying? A frog can never have a swan. Isabella couldn't help but let out a small laugh. You too. Caleb looked like he was about to have a seizure. Isabella, have you fallen in love with him? He's a nobody from the sticks. He's nothing. Isabella calmly walked to my side and hugged me. I love my husband. I only love my husband. I didn't understand love before. I was foolish and easily swayed by your empty words. Then her tone shifted, becoming cold and sharp. Caleb, that underwear my mother lost a while back. You're the one who stole it, aren't you? Caleb's face went pale. His eyes darted around nervously, and he took an involuntary step back. Isabella, that's not a funny joke, he forced out. Isabella raised an eyebrow and gave me a subtle nod. I knew exactly what to do. I stepped forward and slapped Caleb hard across the face, followed by a swift kick. You ungrateful bastard. How dare you have designs on my mother-in-law? You wanted to get with the mother and the daughter. Disgusting. Guilt-ridden, Caleb didn't even try to fight back. I gave him a thorough beating before letting him go. That's weird. How did Isabella know about that? No wonder she was suddenly being so nice to me. She finally saw her precious Caleb for who he really was. It's just a shame it's too late. I didn't think I liked her as much as I used to, but I did like her body more. And she was my woman now. I couldn't just stand by and watch her get destroyed. Fine, I'll help her out one more time. Isabella felt a mix of joy and sorrow. "Honey, can we please not get a divorce? If we do, my mom will never let me marry anyone else. She'll think they're not interested in me, but in her. How about this? You can have girlfriends on the side, just as long as I don't know about them." I was speechless. I had no idea how to respond to that. The proud Isabella Vance would never say something like that. She had me bluffing. If only she'd been like this 3 years ago, I would have gladly spent my life with her. The business world of Seaport City was about to be plunged into turmoil. After the confrontation with Caleb, the two family companies began to clash. According to the original plan, Caleb would have joined Advance Corporation's project department, leaked massive amounts of confidential information, and waited for the Brazil project to tie up the company's capital. Then the Reeds, along with their allies, would have squeezed the Vance Corporation from all sides. The company would have been desperate for cash, and with banks tightening their lending, they would have been forced to mortgage or sell off shares. The Reeds would have swooped in, gradually taking over until they controlled the entire company, leaving the Vance family with nothing. Bankruptcy. Mr. Vance would die of a heart attack, and Mrs. Vance, Isabella, and Jessica would all meet tragic ends. The Vances were not about to let that happen. Armed with the knowledge from my thoughts, Mr. Vance and Isabella had already begun their counterattack, and I wasn't just sitting on the sidelines. I had my own connections. The reputation of RY hadn't faded in the 3 years I'd been married. If anything, it had grown stronger. That was thanks to the original me and to Isabella. With no wife to spend time with after work, he poured all his energy into coding. I used my connections, mostly calling in favors from my old professor, to bring in some new partners for the Vance Corporation. All of them were major state-backed enterprises. This gave Isabella a much-needed moment to breathe. But it wasn't enough. The Vance Corporation needed cash, tens of billions of it. The banks were hesitant, and under the combined assault of the other powerful families, the company was still on the brink of collapse. Just as I was about to contact my professor again, an unexpected visitor showed up at our door. "Brooke, what are you doing here?" It was my old college friend, Brooke Chandler. Isabella appeared from behind me. "Honey, I told you I had a surprise for you. Are you happy?" I forced a smile, more like terrified. My relationship with Isabella had been progressing slowly, but we were still sleeping in the same bed every night. Seeing my old flame so unexpectedly threw my heart into chaos. What was Isabella playing at? Was she trying to test me by bringing Brooke here? Trying to tempt me into cheating so she could take back the $1 billion? Isabella kept a smile on her face, but she was watching Brooke closely. When she saw no reaction, her smile widened. It was true. Only the Vance family could hear her husband's thoughts. "Ethan, it's been a long time. I'm here at Isabella's invitation to discuss a partnership and to see you, of course." Isabella nodded beside her. "Brooke came all this way just for you. You should go make us something delicious in the kitchen." I knew the two of them needed to talk business, so I was happy to be sent away. By the time I had a full meal prepared, they had finished their discussion. The dinner was a pleasant affair. After we saw Brooke off, I finally asked Isabella, "How did you convince her to work with you?" Isabella gave me a mysterious smile. "I just cast a line, and she was willing to take the bait." I scratched my eyebrow. She was being cryptic. If she didn't want to tell me, fine. Isabella was treating me better and better, but I still wanted to thrash her both inside and out. Isabella, with the help of the White Corporation, the Vance Corporation not only recovered within a month but also emerged victorious from the corporate war. The Reed Corporation was on the verge of bankruptcy. One day, Caleb Reed showed up at the Vance estate wearing an ill-fitting suit. He looked terrible. On closer inspection, it wasn't the suit. He had lost a shocking amount of weight. The moment he walked in, he dropped to his knees. "Mr. Vance, Isabella, please have mercy on my family. From now on, the Reeds will be your loyal servants." Neither Mr. Vance nor Isabella would ever agree to that. Mrs. Vance had already sworn that if the Reed family were to disappear from the face of the earth, she would donate her entire fortune to charity upon her death. That's how much she despised Caleb. It was disgusting to think about. The neighbor boy she'd watched grow up had pursued her daughter only to get closer to her, to steal her underwear. Even though the public humiliation hadn't happened, the intent was unforgivable. Of all the Vances, it was Mr. Vance who hated the Reeds the most. They had coveted his wife and daughter, manipulated his younger daughter, and nearly destroyed his family. He would never let them off the hook. "Caleb, the only reason I let you in today is to give you a choice. Hand over your family's offshore trust fund, and I'll spare your father." Mr. Reed was already in the ICU. Sparing him didn't mean much. At most, it meant letting Caleb handle the funeral arrangements, allowing the Vances to appear merciful. But Caleb understood the hidden meaning. If he complied, his father would have a dignified end. If he didn't, his father's death would be anything but. The offshore trust was his last resort. Mr. Vance was demanding total annihilation. Caleb could flee the country, but without the protection of his family's company, and with the Vances' power, he wouldn't be able to protect himself. "Mr. Vance, I don't want to go to prison." "Done," Mr. Vance agreed. After Caleb left, Isabella and Jessica were furious. "Dad, how could you let him go just for that money?" Mr. Vance was unperturbed. "I only said I wouldn't let him go to prison and that I wouldn't lay a hand on him." He looked up at me, but that didn't mean my son-in-law would let him off. I understood. My father-in-law was giving me the chance to take my own revenge. White-collar crime wouldn't land Caleb in jail for long. He had come back intending to cuckold me. He had coveted my respected mother-in-law. As a man, if I let that slide, I'd never be at peace with myself. Only a spineless coward like the original me would run from everything. Isabella did well today. I'll give her some extra time tonight. Isabella was both relieved and happy. Finally, no more beatings. Her mother's whip was agonizingly painful. Her husband's whip was exquisitely pleasurable. Just then, Mrs. Vance came out of her room, pinching her nose. "Ford, have the staff air out the house." Ford, clearly accustomed to his mistress's strange requests, immediately went to work. Suddenly, I remembered something. There's that guy from Isabella's college at her company. In the original story, after the Vance family went bankrupt, he stuck by her, even gave his life for her. I wondered. Isabella's sudden cry interrupted my thoughts. She pulled me into a fierce kiss. When she finally let go, my lips were swollen. "Honey," she pleaded, "I'll only ever love you. If I ever cheat, you can let my parents beat me to death." I was completely bewildered by her behavior. "Fool me once. I can't trust a word," she said. Isabella slumped to the floor in despair. Thunder rolled in her mind. What college friend? She didn't even know such a person existed at her company. Mr. and Mrs. Vance exchanged a look. Mr. Vance took off a ring and handed it to me. "Ethan, this is for a private security force the Vance family maintains. You can think of them as our own secret service. I'm giving you control of them now. In the future, you have my permission to deal with my daughter and any other man as you see fit before she has a chance to cheat." I knew about this group. In the original plot, they were eliminated by the Reeds and their allies. And now Mr. Vance was handing them over to me. Isabella quickly took the ring and put it on my finger. "There, honey. Now you can trust me, right?" she said with a sigh of relief. Mrs. Vance added, "Your parents-in-law can help you keep an eye on your wife, but as a man, you need to be assertive. No more of that pure love nonsense." Jessica chimed in, "Brother, make my sister have your babies until she's 50. See if she has any time or energy to cheat." Then me, Isabella, Mr. and Mrs. Vance in unison. An excellent idea. Epilogue. Just as Isabella had suspected, there are no coincidences in life, only calculations. Brooke Chandler had been keeping an eye on Ethan for a long time. She had been interested in the studious underclassman back in college. It was a shame he married into the Vance family right after graduation. She thought they would never cross paths again. But then one day, her old crush's wife showed up at her door. "Brooke, I know you're my husband's old flame, and he's your Prince Charming. The Vance family is in trouble, and I need the white corporation's help. After this is over, we can compete for him fairly." Isabella had laid all her cards on the table. She told Brooke everything that had happened. her relationship with Caleb, the trouble her family was in, Ethan's desire to leave. The only thing she left out was that her family could hear his thoughts. Brooke laughed coldly. Wouldn't it be more advantageous for me if the Vance family went bankrupt and Ethan became single again? Isabella was certain. The woman my husband dreams of is kind and gentle. She would never stand by and watch, or worse, help the enemy. Is that who you are, Brooke Chandler? Brooke sighed. If Isabella hadn't come to her, she could have remained a bystander. But now that she had, if Ethan found out she had done nothing, it might ruin their relationship. And you're so sure I care what Ethan thinks? Isabella nodded, based on the fact that, in the original timeline, a powerful CEO like him was willing to marry a divorced Ethan. But she couldn't say that. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Brooke. In the end, Brooke agreed because Ethan was a man of integrity. When the Vance family was at its lowest, he had used his billion-dollar settlement to buy 5% of their company's shares. He had revealed his identity as RY to support them. He had even used his professor's connections to bring them clients. It was clear he didn't want a Vance family to go bankrupt. As Ethan's old flame, Brooke couldn't bear to tarnish her image in his eyes. Within a month, the White and Vance corporations, working together, had defeated their rivals. But Brooke discovered she had been tricked. Isabella, is this what you call a fair competition? Brooke fumed, waving a piece of paper in her hand. Isabella was pregnant. So while she was busy with work, she had also been busy, and she had succeeded. Isabella smiled sheepishly. You can't blame me for that. Blame my mother. She's the one who said I can only ever be married to Ethan. Otherwise, she'd think any other man was only interested in her. Brooke's face was like ice. You owe me an explanation. Isabella pretended to think for a long moment. How about you become my mother's goddaughter? Brooke was shocked. You? Isabella nodded firmly. My mother will only let her own daughters marry Ethan. Jessica doesn't count. Brooke was stunned. Was that even allowed? Isabella saw her hesitation and sneered inwardly, still pretending. If she didn't need the White Corporation as an ally, and if Brooke wasn't her husband's old flame, she wouldn't be going to all this trouble. Whatever. Adults don't have time for all this drama. It's all about business. In our world, a marriage license doesn't mean much. A child is what truly binds people together. Don't expect too much, Brooke. My husband might love you the most, but I will be his wife for life. Brooke was silent for a long time. Then she lowered her head and whispered, Thank you, Isabella. Isabella burst out laughing and immediately took out her phone. Diane, order a small leather whip. The exact same one as my mother's. Brooke was aghast. What are you doing? Do you and Ethan have that kind of hobby? Isabella, don't be ridiculous. This is the first gift for my child, so he or she can experience the suffering I went through. Brooke's eye twitched. She quietly edged away from Isabella. She wouldn't be the one to tell her about the phenomenon of grandparents spoiling their grandchildren.